I used to work at the register at Walmart, taking the night shift. This was a time when I juggled multiple jobs, and the night shifts were always the least stressful. In most cases, only a handful of people came in, and some days I was left completely alone. This was perfect for me, since at this time I did most of my assignments and studies for college. I had a whole system figured out for utilizing my time to do everything. But that changed during one of my shifts. It started like any other shift. Once the nightly rush around 10 at night was over, it was relatively quiet, other than a few people browsing and buying. That night, I had to cover for a friend who took leave. I was paid overtime, so I didn't mind doing the extra work of maintaining the aisle and stacking things up. As I was taking a carton and filling a deck for the shelf, I noticed a shady person eyeing me. I just had this creepy feeling. From my peripheral vision, I could see someone wearing all black at the end of the aisle. After finishing placing the carton, I went back to the register, as someone had come to bill and I was billing. And I noticed that same person again. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, but they had long hair with a beanie on top. Matching that, they had black jogging pants and a black sweatshirt, almost looking like an Eastern European in their Adidas outfit. The person immediately disappeared behind the shelves when they noticed I was looking at them. Once the billing was done, I took another carton. This time it was in the drinks section, which was at the end of every aisle. I looked around, and other than a handful of people, no one else was there. As I was stacking up the energy drinks, I got the same creepy feeling. That person was staring directly at me. I had a closer look. He was a man, and he had the blankest look on his face. It was like staring at a photo. We locked eyes for a moment until I snapped out of it and asked how I could help him. The man replied, "You can't." But what creeped me out was that he didn't move any of his facial muscles other than his mouth. His eyes and eyebrows, everything was fixed. It was like talking to an AI. I got up and finished stocking the energy drink section and turned to the guy, who by that time was gone. The store was almost empty now, just 3 people maybe, but I still couldn't figure out where that man was. I knew he hadn't left the store because when I checked the CCTV, the man was still looking around the place, and he avoided me whenever I went to confront him. Once the last customer had billed and left, I went back to the CCTV live footage, and a chill ran down my spine when I noticed he was directly behind me. Panicked, I threatened to call the cops on him. At that moment, I saw a faint glint of emotion on his face. "I thought you wanted to help me," the man uttered. His voice was so low and shrill, I had a hard time understanding it. The man grabbed me and tried to kiss me, but I pushed him off and jumped to the counter. A decision I instantly regretted as I missed my chance to press the security button under the counter and alert the place. But it was too late, and weirdly, the man didn't respond. He looked at me sadly and kept repeating, "I thought you wanted to help me." I had it with this person. I took out my phone and dialed 911, but felt a sharp, sudden pain in my shoulder. I turned around and saw I had been stabbed with scissors in the shoulder by another man who looked exactly like the one who was in front of me. They both exchanged words about how I had failed to help them, as I leaned against a shelf, reeling from pain. Tears escaped my eyes as I felt the scissors dig in with an agonizing sting. I realized that my phone had fallen from my hand when I was struck, and before I knew it, the 2 men tied my hands behind my back with zip ties. One of them came forward and looked me in the eye with his blank expression and said, "I shall now let you help me." Then he put on some gloves as the other zip-tied my legs and began cutting my clothes open. I was kneed in the gut multiple times and was pushed to the ground. Even though he looked thin and lanky, he possessed immense physical strength and easily fought me down. My vision became a bit hazy, and one of the last things I saw was both of the identical men looking at me and smiling. one with a scalpel and the other with the scissors. I knew my life was over then. I couldn't even struggle. And slowly, I felt my mind giving up. And eventually, I lost consciousness. I awoke later in a hospital bed. The nurse came and called my parents. One of the cops came in to ask me about the details, and I told them everything. He mentioned that the cops were dispatched when I made the call to 911, and those two men were twins from an asylum for the mentally ill. They had been charged with murder 10 years ago. They were deemed insane, and the day before, they had escaped from the asylum and were on the run. The cop told me that I was lucky that I got out alive, as their previous victim from 10 years ago was found with their skin flayed and organs cut out.
Subscribe today or beware.